Without spending much time on this broad concept, which I think all of you have seen umpteen number of times, let me go quickly onto this area of customer experience, and let's probably see, how the customers are really interacting with the company. First and foremost, I think they're obviously experiencing, be it a positive or a negative experience. They're interacting with the sales channel. They're trying to buy stuffs. They're buying something on the retail POS. They're navigating through the websites. They're getting several number of emails, solicitations, marketing materials. They're having problems and talking to support groups. So there are various different ways they're dealing with different parts and and functions of an organization. And then they whatever they hear, whatever they experience, they create their own perceptions. Some of the perceptions are certainly reality, and they start expressing that in various different modes. The expression can happen when the organization sends a survey to that individual and say, hey, how did you like working with my salespeople? Did you like the support transaction? Is it something which you would recommend to your colleagues and friends? Is it really value for money working with X company? And people start kind of expressing their thoughts about relationships, what they want to really, what are the areas where they want the company to improve in. And some of them, like many of us, probably go ahead, post their frustrations as well as their positive comments in social media. And then in many cases there probably escalations going at different levels. But for all practical purpose, in various different ways, they're expressing their excitement or frustration, or even in some cases maybe their opinion. And then with social media being more and more popular, being more used by different people, there is a point when if one customer is unhappy, then the circle of influence was much smaller, maybe a few friends. And many of the cases, organizations used to believe that unless and until that particular customer is coming from a very specific area or a very specific place where they have a lot more number of customers, they will not be able to influence negatively or positively any other people. But with social media coming in place, write social media reviews, you mention in the blogs in a positive or negative way, you comment on certain positive or negative posts saying that, by the way, it's not the case. That really influences a lot more number of people than a close community of friends and relatives. And that makes customer experience and managing customer experience far more important than what it was yesterday. Because at the end of the day, with all of this experience, they're experiencing they're expressing their concerns, they're influencing others, and unless and until you really manage this at the right point of time, they will act their own way. They might be reducing their spend, they might be leaving you and kind of going to another organization, they might be ignoring, or they might, on the other side, might really become a brand ambassador of the organization. Having said that, in this whole process, it really creates a lot more amount of data, because they're really either interacting or expressing in various different places. Like for an example, I've just posted probably a few types of data, but there can be several different types of information ranging from sales to customer support incidences, to customer feedback, website logs where people are really kind of going page by page, solicitation history where people are trying to kind of reach out to a customer, social media postings, and some things like GPS data where an individual is being tracked. And if you really look at this type of information, you will see all of these, the whole aspects of volume, velocity, and variety. when you're talking about a GPS data, you are really talking about probably every 15 seconds, every individual is sending information about their position. And we really, for one individual, for a day, they can really generate more than 0.4 MB of data. On the other side, for an example, if you're talking about a medium-sized retail store, on an annual basis, and I'm really talking about one store, not a chain of stores, a medium-sized departmental store might actually have more than 2 million number of transactions annually. And for the stores which are having chains across all the cities, you know, accumulate them all together, we're really talking about a huge amount of data as it kind of grows over month by month, year by year. Some of them are structured. Some of them can even be very, very unstructured, like, you know, customer support incidences. You will have agents scribing down on what they heard from the customer about their issues and what they feel are the potential ways to solve those issues. We're really talking about a various different type of information. Some of them are coming at a very high volume. Some of them are unstructured. But you know, that's what really creates the rich field of customer experience in terms of big data. Moving to the next 2 pages, I would say we'll talk about a couple of examples of companies who have seen this opportunity and has really used this opportunity to their own positives and made an impact to their own bottom line. One will talk about the company called Avis. Many of you probably heard about it. It's already there in India as well. It's a global car rental company. Globally, it has more than 40 million number of customers. The objective for Avis was really to create a process and infrastructure where they can marry all of the structured and unstructured data and build an end-to-end view of a particular customer. You know, the customer is really experiencing in so many different ways in terms of making transactions, when they're going through different pages in the website, they're collecting information about the customer in a separate, different way. They're also tracking some of these customers in the social media. Now, all of this information, how do we really put them all together and kind of take a call about the customer in a holistic basis and being able to probably assess their lifetime value, saying that, you know, I understand this customer might have bought certain amount of dollars and that seems to be very high. But by the way, there are customers who might be buying low at this moment but seems to have a huge potential as we go forward. And hence, both of these customers are important, and you cannot really ignore those customers who are potentially going to spend a lot more money with you in years to come. Now, that being the problem, you know, the way they really handle it is, first and foremost, they try to kind of get all of these data into a big, ecosystem of, Hadoop-based ecosystem, and they got these rental transactions, they got the web traffic data, customer data. They kind of matched all of them together. That itself was really a technically quite challenging activity in terms of linking somebody who is making a rental transaction with that individual with what they're really posting in certain parts of social media. And once they did that, they really got a complete 360 view of a customer. You know, are they engaged? Are they happy? Are they loyal? Are they influencing? Do they have connection with other people? Then they used all of this information to predict the annual number of rentals for each of the customers. So they predicted, you know, how much, based on all of this information, what I see, how much money are they going to really spend in the next 1 year, and what can make them really spend more than what they're spending, today. And that's why, and then they also went across and say, okay, who are those disengaged customers who are not, taking rentals from us anymore, or kind of providing very negative feedbacks to us? Can we really understand what exactly made them unhappy? And then they, try to understand all of this and use that to their positives, and at the end of the day, they got a significant increase in terms of individuals spending much more money than what they were spending before. They were taking average as compared to many other of their competitors, and whenever they were contacting people for solicitation, they were also getting a more than 30% improvement on the effectiveness of such. So that's the story of one of the companies called Avis. Now moving to another company, this is a retail company. It's a global retailer with stores as well as online presence. And during the Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday, that's 3-4 days time. That's a time when in US in particular, it's a time when a lot of people really shop, both in stores and online. And there was a significant drop which this retailer observed from previous year to this year, where they saw that that probably the total purchases are really falling down by 3%. And then the next question they had is that, can really big data help solving this problem? Can I really make my offers much more personalized and improve the spending by each of the individuals? What they did was very similar. The first and foremost, they got the data together. They really mapped out the whole organization and say what's really important from an organization standpoint. Is it traditional data from inventory, pricing, payment, logistics, or is it unstructured data, coming from click streams, coming from page views, coming from the geographical information which they're capturing? And they kind of got all of them together into a big data setup, and they created some micro segments of customers or visitors and say that, what type of customers are they, and what are they buying, what type of clicks, what type of web traffic they're kind of showing. And then they also created on the front end a situation where an in-memory database is placed, which kind of continuously tracks of a particular individual or a visitor when they're in the website. And this in-memory database is getting updated on a periodic basis with all of these user segmentation. And all of these informations are getting used together to, to on the fly optimize on what should be the right offers and promotions which should be relevant for a particular customer. And they kind of completely changed the game, and they personalized the experience. People were shown what they would like to really look at as compared to, kind of bombarding them with any other offers. And that not only increased the experience, web experience of the customers, it also significantly increased the effectiveness of each of the promotions which they were doing. They had small micro segments, and they could really improve the initial spend which each of these individuals did from each of the micro segments, from last year to this year. So, the whole idea was to really kind of get the data together, and let's see, how we segment people, how we understand the specific needs of each customers and act accordingly. Moving to that, we talked about a couple of problems, and we talked about a couple of companies who have solved that problem. But does that mean that it's really already solved? It's not an area where we need to innovate. It's not. It's really an area where probably only a few people have really gained some level of mastery. And this is an area which is going to be important for each of the companies, because on a competitive space, if one really reacts, the other need to really react. Now, if you talk about, I think there was a research either from Forrester or Temkin, who kind of looked at some of these and say, okay, when there is a bad experience, are people really talking about it? Is it this influence thing which we're talking about? Is it really real? So we saw that, the research basically says that if you had really had a bad experience, probably you're talking, people are talking to around, or 65% of the people are talking to their friends. But then there are 35% of the people who are, and that's very small. They're really sending the feedback saying I had a bad experience. Another 65% does not even bother to send a feedback, and then 25% actually expresses in social media. So you can see that I think there's a large chunk of cases where it is really unknown to you unless and until you really reach out, you understand each customers in a much more granular way. And we have seen recently that 65 more than 60% of the enterprises have really dedicated budget from innovation standpoint in customer experience. And that innovation is not only on big data or analytics, it is also on how they innovate on the platforms through which customers interact. But this is certainly an area where big data and analytics is getting a lot of importance. Having said that, moving to the next page, I would say, if I kind of combine all of these together and say, there might be a dream or maybe a possibility of, can we really put all of these transactions, interactions of one single customer in one single place? How do we really connect them? If I ask this question 5 years, 7 years before, number one, the type of data we are talking about were not even relevant at that time. Number two, in many cases, it is not even in many cases it's we cannot even think about from technology standpoint in keeping such a huge variety and volume of data in one single place. So we are really talking about, if you think about a customer, there will be sales touch points, from channels, website, sales individuals are kind of going and interacting with the customer. There will be a lot of marketing efforts. Emails will be sent, in some cases probably 5 emails in a month. There will be social efforts to reach out and influence customers to buy. There will be telephonic calls. There will be a lot of cases where customers are interacting on the customer service basis. They're writing something on the social. So if you think about putting all of this data together and think about a situation where you can really connect dots between an interaction happening somewhere and an action happening somewhere. Like for an example, when I see somebody being extremely unhappy and writing something on social media, probably in the database I'm able to figure out that what are those interactions they have gone through in recent past. Did they have a very bad support experience? Are they getting too many emails on the recent days? Did we find this customer saying to the sales guys that the products are not relevant for me? So can we really correlate all of these events? Can we correlate our customers buying and non-buying or not purchasing behavior with their history, with their interactions at that point of time, and use some of those triggers to really potentially change and improve some of this customer experience? So that's really the broad picture of opportunity, no doubt. And obviously, if we have to kind of put all of them together, leaving the complexity of how you can connect things like offline and online, it is really a huge field of research from a customer experience standpoint. You will need all sorts of technology, not only from the volume velocity standpoint, but also from the standpoint of how do you structure such data so that, for lack of a better term, you can query on any interactions and any expressions, so to say, from the database itself. Now, having said this as an opportunity or a dream,